Okay, everybody, it's 10 o'clock. Welcome to our live tutorial. Welcome, everybody, on a Friday. Thanks for coming out and taking the time to spend an hour with me on my favourite subject. For those who know me, for those who don't, my name is Charlie. I am the UK Sales Director at Big Change. And I've been with the business for almost 5 years. I get involved in all manner of things. I support the sales team. I have my own customers. From time to time, do some implementation work, and generally get stuck into the thick end of the product. So today's webinar is covering basics of financial functionality in the system. So it's for those of you who have an elementary understanding of financials and the system's capabilities, either as a newcomer or someone that's used a little bit of it and wants a refresher. And we have a 3 o'clock session this afternoon covering some more intricate levels of functionality on finance, and we're calling that intermediate level. And if you haven't signed up for that already and you're wanting a little bit more than what I'm providing in the first session today, please feel free to sign up on the website, and you're welcome to join the session this afternoon. So a couple of bits of housekeeping. Today's session is non-participatory. What that means is there's so many of you, we can't have an online chat. There's currently 96 participants, which is great. But I do encourage you to float questions at me in the Q&A section towards the end. So don't post them now because they'll lose their thread in the chat. But around the 45-minute mark, I'll be asking for some questions. And the questions that I believe are common and that fall in the category of basic, I will attempt to answer in real time. So there's a challenge for me to keep up with all 98 of you. So what I'm going to be covering today is creating and sending quotes. So we're all in the business of generating business. That's an important feature. We're going to flip a quote to a job. We're going to create and send some purchase orders. We're going to set up some predefined items, and you might not know what that means, but hopefully you will once I've finished with you. And then we're going to look at sales opportunities and some other bits and pieces in between. And then, as I said, we will have some Q&A time at the end. So I'm all set up to give you a live demonstration. And what I'd also encourage you to do along the way is you will all know, or maybe some of you don't know, about the Big Change Network, the concept of collaborating jobs between Big Change users. You've got an audience of 98 other participants. So feel free to post your company name, some contact details, and a bit about what you do. If you would like the group to see you, or to rather to contact you about the services you offer. So please feel free to do that amongst yourselves as we go. Okay, so we have just shy of 40 minutes to run through a good chunk of the product detail. So starting with the concept of a predefined invoicing item. Now, a predefined invoicing item is our way of saying a product or service that you regularly sell. You'd rather not have to type in every time you want to add it to a quote. Let me just chat here. Perfect. Thank you, Debbie from Amicus Services. That's exactly what we want to see. Perfect. Many thanks for being the first. Thank you very much indeed. So we're now at the big 100. So predefined items, yes. So predefined items are a simple way of storing in the system items and services that you regularly sell, so they can be quickly called upon when creating a quotation. So just to start you off, we're going to create a predefined item, and then we're going to link a predefined item to a particular customer to give the customer a particular rate for that item, and then we're going to complete that journey with creating a quotation using the predefined item that we've. about to create. So in the admin section, so for those of you who don't have admin rights, you need to get them to do this little piece of functionality. And over on the left-hand side here, excuse me, is where we are looking at various under the hood setup pieces for finance. So for those of you paying attention, on the left-hand side, we have the concept of predefined invoicing items. So in Blue Peter style, let me show you some of the ones we've created earlier. So over here, you can see lots of different items with different codes and different names and different prices. And these are all the things in our fake Big Change demonstration site catalog. A simple way to add a predefined item is as follows. We click add, so I'll go back. We click add, we type in a reference. So perhaps it's a door fixing kit for those that are fixing doors amongst us. We pick a group. We pick any old group. Call it that group. We can select a nominal code. So we're not going to cover nominals and department codes today. And if you'd like to know a bit more about that, please feel free to email Road Crew. But this allows you to allocate preordained nominals and department codes to those items. So when we add those items to a quotation and then onto an invoice, those nominals and department codes will follow the item all the way through the journey. So it's a large domestic door kit, entirely fictitious and made up. We're going to have a fictitious selling price of £125. We're going to give it a VAT number of T1 again, but like the nominal department codes, I'm not going to cover those things today. Feel free to check in with the help site. So I haven't mentioned that yet. There's a very comprehensive Big Change wiki site. You can access that by clicking the Road Crew button on the desktop site. And if I remember that before the end, I'll actually show you how to access that. Some other bits and pieces down here, which I'm not going to cover, but for example, for later stages, maybe for the intermediate or for the advanced sessions, which we're going to do, we'll learn about predefined items on devices. So click Save. We've now got a door fixing kit created at a selling price of £125. Now, let's pretend we have a customer who uses lots of these things and we're quoting for them all the while. And that particular customer, please excuse me if some of you aren't familiar with the CRM system. I'm not going to cover that today, so I'm hoping that most of you watching today will at least have some understanding. So when I'm clicking between screens, it all connects and makes sense to you. But as I said, if it doesn't, please feel free to email Road Crew and they can connect the dots for you. Some very helpful people on the Road Crew desk. So we click into Allerton School, and then we're looking for this button called Financial, and we want to allocate a particular special price to this customer so that when we quote them for this item, rather than using the list price of £125, it's going to select a special price. So can you see that I click predefined invoice item? I'm going to type door fixing kit. You see that's the one we just created. And we're going to say they have a discounted price, not too generous, of £120. We can also, by clicking this button here, offer them a percentage discount. So we're going to click Save, and it's registered that for that particular item, they have a discounted price of £120. Take that off my list. So we're now going to create a quotation for that customer for that particular item. It goes as follows. We're going to use Allerton School, which is my guinea pig. And we're going to dip into financial again. And we go straight to documents. And this is where we start the quote journey. This is where we start the quote journey. And it's quite simple. We go to the bottom of the screen and we click Add. And we're presented with a number of options. So we're presented with a number of options. We can free type an item and add a price. We're not going to do that. We're going to use the predefined item which I selected. So what it does is, if I type in the start of the description, you can see how it's selected it from a list. So I might have 100 types of door fixing kit. I select the right one, click save, and it's allocated. Let me just delete that fake line that I added earlier. And it's added the selling price automatically. Really quite simple to do. We're then going to click the quote button down here, click save. And you can see at the top here, it's created a new quote at 10:11 today, and this is the quote reference. And if I just show you that very briefly, it's presented on our standard quotation documentation. And we're not going to cover bespoke documentation today, but lots of our customers, and there's lots of functionality in the system to have your own bespoke documentation. Okay, so that's predefined items. Really quite simple to do, simple to set up, and really effective to stop you having to enter items all the while if you're using them often. So we're going to just step to the next part of the demonstration, having added a predefined item to a quotation, and we're going to send that quotation to the customer. Okay, we're going to send that quotation to the customer from JobWatch. So having created the quotation, you'll notice before, if you were paying attention, I clicked on PDF. Okay, now I downloaded it before, but on this occasion I'm going to click to email. I'm going to click to email. I'm going to click persons. Now, we're not going to cover this in such great detail, but if I allocate a particular person as receiving financial documents within CRM, their names will appear on this list. And for today, I'm going to pick Mr. Charlie Smith. It knows Mr. Charlie Smith's email. I've preset a template. So we've had a session on templates this week. Please feel free to contact Road Crew to get a copy of that. And this will connect the dots for you. So templates are really important when sending quotations to customers. And you can see here, I've got a quite simple email. If I click an example down here, is a bit fancier version, big change branded with a bespoke email content. I click to send. And then one I prepared earlier is my Gmail account. And we can see in real time the quotations pop through. Nice and simple. In later sessions, we're going to cover the electronic sign-off. We're not going to cover that today, or rather at this session. On the 3 o'clock session, we're going to cover big change version of a DocuSign. So by clicking this button, it will walk the customer through a process to allow them to digitally sign and accept your contract with those terms online. And we'll come back to that. Okay, so you can now see that quotation is marked as sent. Marked as sent. But we can see they haven't accepted it yet. So in the later session, we'll walk through the DocuSign process where the customer signs the quote digitally and it will automatically mark it as sent. But for today, for demonstration purposes, let's imagine the customer's called you and accepted the quotation. Okay, so moving on to the next part of the demonstration, we're going to take that quotation and the customer says, yes, we'd like you to come and install that thing or fit that thing or fix that thing or do that service for me. So having accepted the quotation, let me go back one step. So we're in the customer CRM location. We're looking at the particular quotation. click on that, and it offers us the option to assign to a job. And that's what we're going to go for today. We're going to say, I want that quotation to link to a job and to carry through to a job. I'm going to click New Job. Let's follow through and see what happens. So for those of you savvy with job scheduling, you will see that this is the job planning screen. I'm not going to focus too much on the job planning element today, but I will follow the quote through. Let me show you how it posts directly to the job. So this is a job that's going to carry that quotation through. All I need to do is pick a job type, any old job type, reactive repair. Okay, I'm going to allocate it to my trusty engineer. Okay. And if we take a look at that job, once it's on the schedule, into a different screen, what we'll see when I click into that job at 12 o'clock, it's already ready to go with a financial line item of £120. So already within the financial section of the job, that line item is ready to go. So when we complete that job, we can simply create the invoice. We're going to come back to, or rather spend a little more time on creating invoices. But I just wanted to run through the process of allocating a predefined item to a quotation. Okay, so let's spend a bit more time on the creation of an invoice and some of the functionality associated with invoices in a bit more detail to give you a bit more of a rounded view. So as you can see, I'm not using the mobile device today. I'm just actioning everything from the back office. It just makes the demo a little bit easier to present and to view on the screen. But of course, in the real world, there will be some interaction from the mobile device. So having created that invoice, having created the invoice, I follow a similar process. Now, in the intermediate session this afternoon, we're going to cover automatic email sending. Today, we're just looking at manual invoice creation on a single invoice, keeping it basic for those who haven't used much of the functionality before. So, having created the invoice, in a similar way, we can view the invoice by clicking download. This is how it's presented in our standard format with your logos. You can see here, I've got an invoice number, got a date it was created, and I have a job number. I've also got the customer's account reference, and that's really important when we talk about things like Sage integration, which we will cover in the next piece. Okay, that's how the invoice looks. And to send the invoice to the customer, again, we click email. You can see a fake template for emails. Again, we select the person, and then we click send. You'll notice it's marked as sent. We're going to come back to that in a second. Now then, within the invoice, there's a few bits and pieces that we're going to look at today. We're not going to cover everything in great detail, but it may be the case that against a particular invoice, or indeed any financial document, you want to attach a secondary document. Maybe it's a receipt from a supplier, maybe it's a picture of something, but it's a document that you want to keep on record that's relevant to that particular invoice, or indeed any financial document. It's quite simple. I click to add, and I can either drag in a file from my desktop location or select and click to import to this location. Really, really simple to do. Click to add, bring it up my desktop, and you follow it through. Really, really simple stuff. Later on today, in the intermediate section, we're going to cover off online payments, and I'm going to skip that because that's a little bit more savvy than basic. Okay, so having sent the invoice, what you'll notice is some of the cells are marked as grey, and that's because I can't change them. I can't change those quantities or details when the document is sent. Now, in terms of managing sent invoices, I'm just going to run through another screen. I go through CRM. I'm going to look at the way we can view how many invoices and how many financial documents we've sent. So, just to walk through, I'm in CRM. I look at financial documents. I'm going to change the document type to invoice. I'm then going to look at the status as sent, but not paid. And here you go, top of the list, we can see this invoice that I sent today. It's quite useful for accounts departments to use this particular filter view to look at invoices sent, purchase orders sent, quotes sent, and so on. And I encourage you to spend more time on this particular view. Really useful if you're sending out lots of invoices to get a more rounded global view. And we can see that in that period of time, there are 32 documents that are currently sat at that status. Okay, so almost 25 minutes in, I'm going to briefly touch on Sage interface, or indeed accounting interface. So for those of you that use Sage, we have two levels of integration. We can export invoices, and indeed we have a number of export formats for various software packages or various accounts packages. So what this does is it allows you to use JobWatch as the engine of your invoices, so the physical creator of your invoices, but then allows you to post those invoices to your accounts package down the line once the invoice is sent. So normal protocol is to only send invoices to your accounts package once the invoice is sent. So we use the filter to grab the invoices we want to post, and we click export. What you'll see is there's a number of export options. We're not going to dig into them in great detail. I just want to give you a high-level overview. So if I click on one of those links, it's going to present to me an Excel file with the invoices in the appropriate format, whether it be Sage, whether it be Xero, or QuickBooks, or Exchequer, and there's a number of options on there. And as we build other options, we add to this particular list. And I encourage you to have a look if you have one of those packages. Now then, for Sage 50 in particular, we have something a little more advanced, and we also have a Xero integration coming online in the next couple of months. Just checking the chat. Okay, so the dynamic link to Sage has lots of rich functionality, but particularly around invoices. What we can do is, if you have the advanced Sage link, what it will do is it will look for newly sent invoices from JobWatch. You'll notice here a button that says synced. So what the Sage link does is it's looking for newly sent invoices from JobWatch, and it's grabbing them and posting those invoices to the relevant customer account in Sage. Lots more information on the help site on that, or you can contact Road Crew. But if you're looking to really improve the efficiency of the connection between invoicing and JobWatch and Sage, or indeed Xero coming online in the not too distant future, I encourage you to look at those options. Okay, so I'm going to have a sip of water and then move on to purchase orders. So something which for those who are new to finance, you might not know, but raising purchase orders is a great function within the system. Our business, we use it end to end, and lots of our customers are using this functionality already. So if you're not, I'm going to walk you through the basic process. I encourage you to incorporate that within the JobWatch functionality that you're using. Okay, so let me pick a supplier or an existing supplier, entirely fictitious, and we're going to go to financial, just like we created a quote and an invoice before. But in this case, we're going to create a purchase order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase that door fixing kit from this supplier. This supplier charges me £75. £75. Okay, so it's really quite simple. I've clicked purchase order. I've selected my item or items. I can add additional items as well. Maybe I'm buying a water boiler from this supplier as well. And I go through a process. Now, anything with an asterisk is mandatory. So you need to know what a series is. So let's park it there and let's look at the concept of a series. So a series is a really effective way of limiting the spend of a particular individual. Maybe certain people can only buy something up to £100. Maybe someone has a spend limit of £20,000 a month. And we're going to show you how a series is built because it's mandatory, and I'm going to have to pick one, so I'm going to show you what that's all about. So, in the admin section of the system, we're going to look at web users. We're going to dip into a particular web user here. Okay, so this is a web user profile. There is a section on that's going to cover this. One of my colleagues is going to cover that. So I'm just going to briefly talk about it and then flick to this button here. So in a web user profile is where you set users, permissions, restrictions, and access rights across the platform. So in financial here, you can see that I've created some already for this particular user. And I'll walk you through the examples. If I click edit here, I've created a series. I get to free type the name. I can call it whatever I like. Yeah. And I'm going to attribute, let me pick one I've created already. I'm going to attribute a maximum value for this particular series that this web user that's what their maximum spend is for this particular series. So as follows: maximum value of any purchase order is £100, and we have two options. If they want to place an order above the limit, you can either say they can't create the document, or they can create it, but their manager needs to approve it. So we're going to say they can create it, but their manager needs to approve it. The other option is to say they can spend up to that value in a period of 30 days or whatever it might be. So you have two options. You can create a spend limit for each purchase order or a spend limit over a period of time. So again, just to practice that, I'd encourage you to have a look at that in a bit more detail and start to play with it. And I'm just going to use a worked example to go through. So here we go. We're starting to create a purchase order for these two items. Pick a series. We type a supplier. Pick a supplier out, and that's picking the supplier from CRM. In delivery site, this is telling us where the goods want to go. Again, it's a location in CRM. So when that document gets printed to the supplier, it will tell them where to send it. It's quite simple. We click save, and you can see here, It's created me a purchase order. But it's marked as orange because that can't be sent. I don't have the permissions to send it. So when my manager logs in, they can click this button to approve it. Okay, really simple stuff. And again, just to show you how that might work in practice, on a list of purchase orders, a list I've prepared earlier, on a list of purchase orders, can you see down here, we're saying all the purchase orders that have been raised in this period, and this is telling my manager that this particular one needs to be approved. Okay, hope that all makes sense. And in the intermediate session this afternoon, we're going to cover creating purchase orders within jobs. So, excuse me, frog in my throat. Slightly more advanced way of doing it. And what I've shown you today is a really simple way of creating the PO. And just to complete that journey, when the PO arrives, you'll see here, for example, on the screen, another example. There you go. So we mark as sent, and then when it lands, we mark as received. That's a really simple PO journey, and in other sessions, we're going to cover off the concept of creating purchase orders within jobs. And then if we go on to an advanced session in later weeks, we're going to look at receiving stock against purchase orders against jobs. So a lot more complicated, but some really rich functionality that I'd encourage you to consider using for the future. Okay, so that's a simple intro to purchase orders. And then there's a large piece of the puzzle is even further up the food chain from invoicing, purchase orders, is the concept of sales opportunities. So I know some of my customers use this extensively. I can see the guys from AGS1 on the webinar. They're sales opportunity experts. So for those of you who are not, let me talk you through how they work and their purpose, and let's go into some detail. So sales opportunity is sort of very classical CRM functionality, and it allows you to log, monitor, manage all of your pipeline. So new opportunities, maybe before they're a quote, maybe they are a quote, maybe they're hot, maybe they're warm, maybe they're cold, maybe you're looking to manage your sales team. So lots of possibilities. Don't want to go into too much detail today because it's the basic session, but we've got 8 or 9 minutes to attempt to do it justice. So what you can see on the screen here is a collection of fake dummy sales opportunities. And you can see the concept of them being warm, the inquiry stage, the status, the owner, and the value. And you can see the customer and the reference number and lots of other rich information. So there is some customizable elements to sales opportunities. Let me just check the chat. Here we go. Chris from Jackson Fire. Nice to have you on, Chris. Check them out. They're a great company, franchise company, got businesses all over the UK. Please check them out. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so when we're talking about sales opportunities, all of our customers that we talk to have different concepts of probabilities and stages. So we allow you within the system to create your own stages and pick your own colors associated with the probabilities. So we're back into the admin section over here. We're going to go back into the section financial. And we're going to click sales opportunity stages. Because for your sales opportunities, your business will have your own terminology. We can suggest what that might be, but in your own business, you'll have your own terminology. And you can see here all of the stages that we use to demonstrate. It's quite simple to add. We can say, let's pick a stage, Charlie, just testing, just for demonstration purposes. Okay, and we're going to pull that one near to the top of the list. Then got the concept of probabilities. Now, probabilities, you might assign a value or you might just assign a name to them because you want to know in your pipeline what's hot, what business is coming in, what's red hot, what's verbal order confirmation, or what's just really cool. It's initial inquiry, it's not ready to go yet, and you want to see the value of those opportunities as they flow through the system. So let's create one here, really, really hot. I'm going to say that one is purple, okay? And we're going to use those stages to create a new sales opportunity as follows. So sales opportunity flags is a sort of third way as marking opportunities. And we'll use that in the worked example. So these are the 3 customizable things that you can do to sales opportunities. So within CRM, you can create a new opportunity just generally from here by clicking new sales opportunity and entering in a customer and following it from there. Alternatively, you can go straight to the customer record in here. There we go. So if we look at this particular customer here, we can find their sales opportunities in here. Really quite simple, because you might want to start the journey against the specific customer contact as follows. So go back a step. We're into sales opportunities. Let's go back a step. We click financial. We click sales opportunities. We click to add. And this starts the journey. So a new screen you haven't seen before. These things you have seen. So we're going to add, let's say it's a boiler install, taxi boiler. So we had an inquiry from a customer. We think the value is around £2,500 and we have to tick boxes. So it's a domestic Baxi install. Status, okay, hard-coded statuses, open, hold, completed one, completed lost. We're going to say, we think we're going to close it by the end of May. Really important, the due date allows you to filter and measure and monitor business coming in by date. Then we're into our customizable stages. Let's pick mine here. Pick the probability as really, really hot. Okay, now then, you can add customized fields to this, which we're not going to go into too much detail, but you might want to know where the lead came from. So you can add extra fields that are mandatory. You can see the asterisk here, that makes it mandatory. So I have to enter an entry into this particular field, and they heard about us from an existing customer. Okay, so quite simple, here we go. So against this particular customer, I've got one sales opportunity. Okay, one sales opportunity. I've added a stage, I've added a probability, and for good measure, I'm going to add a flag because you might want an even greater level of granularity when digging into the detail. So here we go. I'll show you how that looks in the general sales opportunity filter view. So let me come out of that screen here, go into sales opportunities. Okay. Let's look in here. Okay. So these are a list of sales opportunities. Okay. And hopefully, having had that little demonstration of how to create one, this starts to make sense. Now, in terms of filtering, you can see here, I can click on these widgets here, due date, yeah, probability, stage, status, and I can also use this filter here to select. Maybe I'm looking for a particular person's sales opportunities. There you go. That's the one we just created. This person's not been particularly busy during this time. So you want to be ringing them up and ask them to crack the whip. So in this filter view here, let's imagine I'm looking at not just this particular person, but the whole sales team. I can dig into that in a bit more detail by grabbing an export. Okay, so that'll give you this data here in a Excel version, allowing you to filter. Now, we're going to cover reports in great detail, but there are some really useful sales opportunity pipeline reports in the system. Okay, if I click on this button here and click view, it's going to give me a bar chart telling me what's hot, what's not within that period of time. So only a few minutes spent on that, but I wanted to introduce the concept of sales opportunities to you so that you'll perhaps have a play with those in your own time and hopefully get those working for you. And please contact Road Crew or visit the help centre. So leads me on to the last bit. So I'm sure my colleagues in other sessions have done the same thing. And I'll leave the training bit of the session with a little look at the help site. So I've got 2 or 3 minutes before we open up questions. And if we click in Road Crew, so you're just in the desktop site, we click in Road Crew, and this button down here, we click Help Center. For those of you who haven't used this before, it's a must do. We've spent a lot of time on building this up over the years. There's some great videos, there's some great articles on here, and quite simple. You can either click into here and search for an item, or we can just go into key features and see what comes up. There you go, financials. So in your own time, if you're wanting to explore, you can run through these articles, creating a quotation, sending a quotation, and lots of rich stuff in here. So I'd encourage you to use that to your heart's content. And we're continually updating that as we go. And as you know, we're developing the system all the while. Okay, so we're coming up to 10:45. To make this easier for me to manage, given the fact that I've got 103 people, so I can see there people are really interested in some of the other sessions as well, and if you contact Road Crew, we'll buzz those videos onto you when they're available. So if there are any questions, I encourage you to post them now. If you've posted them further up the list, please post them again. So I'll give you 30 seconds or so to start posting, and we'll go from there. Okay. So do you need admin level to create purchase orders? That's a great question. So the question is, no, you don't. No, you don't. Wow, some great stuff coming in here. So let's deal with the first one. Okay, so do you need admin functions? You don't need admin functions to create a PO, but you do need to be set up your permissions by a person with admin rights. I'll walk it through as follows. So me in this system, I have admin rights. I can give permission to someone else to create purchase orders as follows. So in the web user section of the system, so I'm the administrator in your business, and I'm setting up a member of my team, okay? So I first need to create the concept of a role. So maybe this person is a financial administrator, okay? So having created a role within the long list of roles, okay, view purchase orders, create and edit purchase orders. So me as the admin person, I can, by ticking one of these buttons against a particular person's role, I can give them those rights. So talk to your administrator and ask them to set up a particular role. Once the role type is set up, okay, they go into your user profile. Let's say you're called Alex, okay, and they assign a role to you. And this person happens to be an administrator, but maybe they are one of these other roles. And within those roles, you will have that permission assigned to you. I hope that makes sense. Really quite simple to set up, and a really great question. Okay, perfect. So a question about the Sage Link from Chris. Hi, Chris. Nice to see you. So with the Sage Link, is it interactive? I don't want to duplicate work by having to mark a customer or supplier invoice as paid in both JobWatch and Sage. So I'm delighted to tell you the answer is yes, it's interactive. So with the advanced Sage Link, which you can purchase from us, so we spent a lot of time developing this. It's an ex-Sage developer called Jason, who's worked with us for a long time. So let's just dip back to financial documents in here. Let's look at a section of invoices. Okay, so let me just flesh out the columns. Perfect. Okay, what we can see here, let me pull up a real life scenario. Okay, right, Chris, and for those who are interested, you've sent lots of invoices. JobWatch has dynamically sent them to Sage. And because Sage is your accounts package, you're marking them as paid in Sage. And it will track that back into JobWatch dynamically, yes. So contact me, Chris, or Road Crew. I've got a nice document. In fact, let me write that down. I've got a nice document on the Sage Link, and I can send that to you following the webinar to go into a bit more detail. Happy with that, everybody? Okay. Does the link work with Sage 200? So there is no preset link with Sage 200, but there are alternative ways of integrating with Sage 200. Sage 200, for those that don't know, is a much broader, much richer package that some larger or more complicated businesses might use. And the way we integrate with Sage 200 is through web services. Typically, your Sage 200 partner would set that up. So, Karen, you'll have my email address. Please email me directly. That's a specialist subject of mine. Happy to talk to you about that. So, so Sue wants to know about the Sage Link. Does it go one way or the other? So likewise, Sue, I have a matrix of which things go one way, which things go the other way, and which things go both ways. So certainly on the paid of the payment of the invoice, typically you'd mark that as paid in Sage, and it would track back to JobWatch. But for more information, contact me, and I will send the documentation to you. And in perfect time there, my mobile phone's going off, so I will cancel that. Okay. Can you batch invoices together? From Mark Rogers. Yes, you absolutely can. So for those interested, in a teaser for this afternoon's session, we have the concept of consolidating invoices. So you're stealing my thunder for this afternoon, and I won't show you the whole process, but it's really quite detailed. So here we go. So we have a long list of invoices. We're going to pick out one customer because we can only consolidate invoices for one customer. So it's this fake customer here. And what you'll notice is down here, there's a button called Consolidated. So it's definitely something we're going to talk about this afternoon. Because you've asked the question, I'll give it 30 seconds. So let me go back a step. So we picked out a customer. We picked out some invoices that have not been sent. I know they've not been sent because there's nothing in here. Okay, I click consolidated. It offers me a few options. It offers me the option to import every single line from the document into one long document, or we can bring all the lines together into one. So if I click that button there, it gives me even more options. So absolutely, consolidating invoices is definitely something we do. We do it really well. And lots of our customers who are using this already. And just to show off a bit further, you can select the keywords that appear in the invoice line. So it's a really rich functionality. It's a really rich functionality. So if I just keep going into the chat. Yes, Paige, please email me directly and I'll buzz that on to you. Right, so question about Xero integration. So today we have the opportunity to export the invoices, but I'm pleased to say that we have developed the Xero integration. It's currently in testing at Big Change. We're testing it ourselves, and it will be live. Not committing to a particular time, but certainly it's in the next short number of weeks and months. We have completed that development, and we'll be looking to go live with that as soon as possible. So if you have Xero, then look out for that release, and you will get an update. Or please just feel free to contact me or Road Crew. Okay, so Sue wants to know about the paid by credit card. So I'll cover that off in the documentation, Sue, which will go into a bit more detail. And it leads me on to something else. We haven't covered credit card payments today because I judge that to be more intermediate/advanced. For those that want to join, Sue, if you'd like to do it this afternoon, I'm happy to cover credit card payments this afternoon. So with just shy of 10 minutes left, I'm going to go up to the top here and let's have a look at here. So can the actual supplier invoice be linked to the PO? So the way we do that in JobWatch is to attach the supplier invoice to the PO. So maybe not sort of classical PO purchase invoicing, but that's how we do it, and that's the functionality that's used in JobWatch. Let me just show you that. So if I want to have a look at a purchase order here, okay, and before we mark it as received, we can attach it through here. So they've sent us a document. We want to record that against the purchase order, and we do that here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, keep buzzing through the chat. Great questions here, thank you. Okay, fine. So simple question here. When putting a delivery address on a PO, how can I show to the supplier that we don't want it delivered, but that one of our engineers will collect it from their branch? Okay, great question. Really simple to do. So when you are creating a purchase order, you have a few options. If you have a delivery site, notice it's not mandatory, okay, not mandatory. If you have a delivery location, you can put it here. Alternatively, you can simply free type in a number of places. So you might type it on here, free type location, or you might type it here, collect from your depot. So a couple of ways to do it. If you've built your own customized financial document template, or if you have asked us to build a financial document template that extends the number of places that you can have free type locations. I'm sure that will have been covered in the section on templates. But please feel free to ask Road Crew for more information. Absolutely, lots of free type locations. And I know some customers might add a separate line, a zero value line item for it as well. And there's lots of ways of doing that within the application. So with a couple of minutes left, we will go through some bits and pieces, and I will talk to you a little bit more about the session this afternoon. Okay, just quickly scroll through, lots of good questions. Okay, great question. So how do you get the predefined items into a specific customer price list? Can this only be done by one at a time or by import? Okay, so something I'm going to cover off this afternoon, and with 3 minutes left, I'll try to do it justice in a very short period of time. Okay, so at a customer level, if you have price list here, okay. Let me pick a customer with just trying to find a customer with a price list. Okay, no price list there, but let me show you how to import against a price list. Okay, so I click on admin here, I go into financial, I go into predefined invoice items. Okay, now there is a document, a template that allows you to put all your predefined invoicing items on there. And if you want to contact me separately, I can send you the document. Having added the document, click to import, okay. We're then going to find the document, okay. Nice and simple. You click to open the documentation, and you column match if you've done that before. So quite savvy to do if you've not done it before. So not going to do that today. But certainly importing predefined items is something that you can do. And once they're imported, you can copy price lists across between contacts. So it looks like I'm running out of time, but perhaps if you'd like to join this afternoon, I'm going to make myself a note and I will incorporate copying price lists across for the session this afternoon. Okay, so yes, indeed. Absolutely. Send it to Nelson's, no problem at all. Okay. So we're out of time. Thanks for attending. We've had more than 100 people on the session today, which is fantastic. Hopefully we sparked interest into using the system in greater depth. I'd encourage you to connect with anyone who's put the details on here. Connect with me, email me some questions, feel free to contact Road Crew, and we'll bash through those questions as quick as we can. Next session is 3 o'clock, where we'll pick a smaller number of topics and go into more detail. Hope that's been helpful. And as I said, if you have any further questions, send them to me, send them to Road Crew, and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. Thanks for attending.